morning everybody and welcome to Homeschool with Mrs. Simpson. This is my new classroom and this is my new class. I've decided to do a little YouTube channel because I'm having lots of questions, people coming to me saying I didn't understand it and trying to type out all the explanations. It's just too hard. So I've done a little YouTube video with my class here to show how to do various topics. Today's topic is adding and subtracting fractions. I've set you some work on Edulink and this is just to give you those hints to start with. So go and grab your maths book and your pen and we'll get started. So press pause now, go and grab all your stuff, come back and I'll still be here. Today's title, adding and subtracting fractions. What you need to remember is the number on the bottom of a fraction is called the denominator. And everything about the denominator is what counts today. So if we're adding fractions, it's the same as adding anything you like. If I have 2 dogs plus another dog, I've got 3 dogs. If I've got 2 cats plus another cat, I've got 3 cats. If I've got 2 dogs and 1 fish, I don't have 3 dogs. I can't add them up. I will just have 2 dogs and a fish. Can't add them up. So I would have to rename them. And that's where adding and subtracting gets a little bit confusing because when they're different, you have to rename them. So what could we rename dogs? That's my class arriving late. Dogs and fish, we would rename and call them animals or pets. So today our first task is when they're all called the same thing. So can you write down these fractions here? When we have 2/5 plus 1/5, we'd say we have 3/5 because they're all the same thing. If we had 1/7 plus 5/7, we would say we have, well, 6/7. It's only when they're different on the bottom that you have any problem at all. So now I've got 3 questions that I'd like you to have a try at. Press pause, copy them down, write the answer, and then we'll come back after you've pressed pause to see how you went with these 3 questions. Have a go on those. Let me get nice and close for you. Okay, so now the answers. I bet you've done really well on these. 3/5 plus 1/5 makes 4/5. 2/7 and 4/7 makes 6/7. 3/10 and 2/10 makes 5/10. Now this one, both in this 5 times table, so we can cancel that down to be a half because they're both in the 5 times table. There's 1 5 on the top and 2 5s in the bottom, so we can cancel that one down. How did you go? All fine with common denominators. But now we're going to look when you don't have a common denominator. So if you don't have a common denominator, you have to make a common denominator. It's like the dog and the fish I was talking about earlier. 3 dogs plus a fish is just 3 dogs and a fish. But if we rename them 3 pets and 1 pet, well then we can say we've got 4 pets. We can add them up. So what we need to look at here is how to rename them. So let's say we've got a fraction of 4/8 plus 1/4. And what does that equal? Well, they're different. They're like dogs and fish, so we can't add them. But we can rename them so that they are the same thing in the middle. So I set up with a blank fraction. 8s and 4s, what can they both be in? I can turn my 4 so that it is an 8. So if I have them both be 8ths on the bottom, this one I would need to double, which means I need to do the same thing to the top. The first fraction, however, it's already 8ths, so it doesn't change. So we still have 4/8. This one becomes 2/8. 4/8 plus 2/8 makes 6/8, just like those easy ones we did at the start. Let's try one more. 1/5 plus 3/10. So 5ths and 10ths can both become a common denominator. We can make them both be 10 on the bottom, because we can easily turn 5 into 10. What do we have to do to it? We need to double it. Double the top as well. So we have 2/10 and 3/10 makes 5/10. Okay. Now the most complicated ones you're going to get are ones where they're not the same thing on the bottom. So let's say we have 1/2 plus 1/5. So we can't just double 1, triple 1, we can't just do that. So what do 2 and 5 both turn into? Tenths. So if we make them both be tenths on the bottom, what do we have to do to this one? We need to times it by 5. Do the same to the top. 5/10. Now you know that 5/10 is the same as 1/2. So we've just made it look like one that works for us. What do we have to do to our fifths? We need to double it. 2/10. And now we've got 5/10 plus 2/10. Those are the easy ones. 7/10 on the bottom. So now I've got a couple of questions for you to do. So when I put these up, could you press pause again and write them down, and I'll give you the answers at the end. Okay, you ready? Here we are. Some questions for you to practice. There we go, practice those. Press pause now, and then we'll go through the answers. So 3/10 plus 1/5, we'd make them both be tenths on the bottom. Did you do that? 3/10, and we have to double the bottom, so we double the top. Our answer is 5/10. Here we're going to go with eighths on the bottom. I hope you did eighths. Double the bottom, so we keep this one, and this one we have to double, so we double the top. We ended up with 5/8. This one now, we'd have to have 15ths on the bottom. To turn 5 into 15, it's not doubling, it's timesing by 3. Do the same to the top. 6/15 and 2/15. Did you get 8/15? I hope so. This one we had to go with 16ths on the bottom. Here's the same. This one we had to double. 6/16 plus 2/16 makes 8/16. Ooh, they're both in the 8 times table, aren't they? So 1/8 in the top, 2/8 in the bottom, and we're job done, same as our number 1. So adding fractions is exactly the same as subtracting fractions. You have to have this common denominator on the bottom, and then you just do a minus for a minus and a plus for a plus. You must have the common denominator though. So now I hope that helps with getting your work started today, and good luck with the work I've set you on EduLink, and good luck with day 1 back at homeschool, and welcome to my new homeschool. Thank you.